It will tell us in just a second. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tech Tuesday. I am so excited to be here today with my special guest, Charles Mann. He seriously just jumped on just a minute ago, but I'm thrilled that you made it. And before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and run our Foresight intro.
Hey guys, Steve Moran here.
Hey, welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah, welcome to Tech Tuesday. How you doing today?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, my
I like
pleasure.
that badge you got on.
Yes, you know what? I wanted to talk to you about this in particular. I feel like I should be an honorary badge wearer. Can it come in pink, or can I get
whatever?
one?
Yeah, whatever you need.
Yeah,
we got you.
Whatever I need that won't get stuck in my hair and
yeah,
and to the bottom of my shoe. Do honorary members have certain colored badges?
You can put whatever color you want in that machine. So yeah, you can definitely have that.
Awesome. Yeah, there are some days where I end up signing in a couple of times if I'm seeing clients, at different communities. Right. And, I was thinking back to the first time I came in contact with this and with Accu, but I want to know from you, and I'll share that with you, but I want to know from you, could you tell us, for anyone who's joining us who doesn't know the man behind the kiosk, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I guess I'll start sort of how I got here. I when I was about 9 years old.
Oh, wow. We're going way back.
Yeah, we're going way back because I think it tells the story and it sort of shares my passion. But the way I got here is because I had a dad that wanted to change the lives of seniors and wanted to give them the ability to age in an environment that is just really relatively non-clinical, even though it's changed a little bit. And when my dad built really the first senior living or assisted living community here in Atlanta, Georgia, there really wasn't anything for seniors that might have Alzheimer's, right? They would, in many cases, either go to skilled nursing facility or some sort of other psychiatric mental institution. And so he felt that there could be a better way. And so through the years of growing up in the business with a dad who's an operator, owner-operator, I spent summers and holidays in residence working at the front desk, answering phones, doing landscape, working in the kitchen. And so that sort of built that passion in me to serve that population. And so there was a point where I was running buildings and I was the executive director, and I just felt there was a better way to manage the visitors. Yeah. To manage the visitors to come and go. And so that's sort of how I got here.
Mm-hmm. I am a third generation entrepreneur on both sides of my family. And I think, when your parents and your grandparents own businesses, you just end up working for them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You end up doing all sorts of side tasks that you never thought. Yeah. And you become part of the team. So that's something that I love about the fact of growing up as in an entrepreneurial family. You just do the job, right?
Yeah,
it sticks with you, and you learn your passion along the way. I was just thinking back, like, when was the first time I remember seeing this? And it was at an MBK community here in Scottsdale. Yeah, could that have been one of your first ones?
Yeah, they were definitely an early adopter. You have two segments of groups. You've got the communities that sort of want everyone else to streamline the process, and then they adopt. And then you have the folks that want to be on the cutting edge and want to be one of those early adopters. And that's MBK, and that's across the board. They're very technology forward, and they reinvest dollars back into communities. And I think that shows very well for people that are looking for their loved ones. And it's front and center. And our kiosk is really, in many cases, the first thing you see, right? And so they wanted a culture of security. And that's why they moved forward with us very early.
Yeah, I remember I was a little bit offended because I had a name tag, and I always wear a name tag when I go. Right. When I see clients, I always wear a name tag, and I was like, well, I got it on already.
Got my name tag,
right?
Yeah.
And it was actually one of the residents that stopped me in the hallway and said, where's your sticker, and I said, oh, well, I've got my name tag. And she's like, oh no, we have a new thing.
No. Yeah.
And I think this was probably 4 years ago. So so I just think that's so cool that you saw this vision before COVID. The need for it obviously grew it so much, during COVID. And I think there's only one community that I enter on a regular basis now that doesn't have your kiosk.
Can you share that with me offline?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
You got it. I will tell you, because now it just seems completely antiquated to sign in, have someone scan you, get your phone number, all that stuff. So, but you saw this as a visionary down the line. What was the first thing that led you to create the AccuShield kiosk?
It was a story of really dates back long before I had this idea, but kept popping up in my mind. And, I can remember my father was called because of an incident in one of his communities. And it was the director who had called him on the phone. I was sort of listening in. And there was something that was stolen from one of the residents. And my father said, do we know who's responsible? And he immediately said, well, what employee, do we think was there at the time of the theft? And the director said, I don't believe it was an employee. I think it was another third-party caregiver. And so then we went back and tried to figure out who was there at the time. We looked at the paper sign-in book. There was nothing there. If there was anything there, it was totally unlegible. And I just started to think, that was what started that process. And then as I started to run buildings, I started to see that same risk. And I think when you think about a daycare, right, you think about your children and how vulnerable they are. Well, in many cases, seniors are sort of in that same position because they may not be able to remember who came to see them. They may not be able to protect themselves. And so there needs to be some level of check and balance, right, of who's coming and going. And I felt that it was too easy to walk into a senior living community, just go anywhere that you wanted without anybody asking you what you're there to do. And so it makes it very easy. It's a, tablet-based kiosk system that people are easy, it's easy to use. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And so that's really how that whole process took place, really based on that incident when I was probably 11 years old.
Amazing how those things stay with you. What would you be doing if you weren't working on AccuShield? Wow,
you know what? I've always wanted to be a country music singer. I grew up singing, although I'm a little shy when it comes to that. But I think, my wife still tells me, you ought to do it. I'm like, honey, I think my ship has sailed at this point. So that's probably what I would be pursuing if I weren't working in AccuShield, or I would be developing senior living communities. That's what, I moved from Texas to Georgia to Atlanta to work with my dad to do that. And through that process of a year, I realized, I think really my passion lies on the technology side of senior living versus the development and operational side.
Yeah, and that's really what this program is about, is the growing technology that's developing here in working with older adults. And absolutely, it warrants its own show, because it's really a whole industry of people, like-minded people who want to improve the lives of older adults that they're serving.
Yep.
And when you look at your kiosk, well, you can call it yours, right?
Yeah.
When you look at your kiosk, what do you love about it, and what do you wish it did?
Yeah, what I love about our kiosk is it screams security, and it screams safety. And that is our mission, and it has been since day one. We've proven that out over and over and over again. with different communities. And, one of the things I love is that you go and you look at our Google reviews, and, executive directors and concierge and business office managers and marketers have all said the same thing. And to me, that was my goal. That was our team's goal, is to create that safer senior living, right? Or skilled nursing or whatever healthcare facility, that we're working in. And so, I would say that's what I love about it. And the next question is what I like to change about it. Is that,
yeah,
I think we learn, as you said, we've been around for 6 years and prior to the pandemic. And, I think you learn by failing, and, to be transparent and vulnerable, like we failed a lot, and we're so thankful for those early adopters like MBK, right? Belmont Village, and some of those other providers that like allowed us to do that. And we were on top of it, we were on it, but we were learning. And so, I think through those 6 years prior to the pandemic, even, we learned what people liked, we learned what people disliked. And so when you look at it, it looks like a signing kiosk, right? There's not a whole, you look at it as a very simple product, which it is, but we want to become that center point, right? That so many things are able to be accessed because of that center point of the building. David Eskenazi, with Cogier, he really sort of coined that phrase. And, I want to create a seamless, automated process, because I'd like to say our kiosks are fully automated. They're not. I'd like for people to be able to use that kiosk and sometimes not even see it, but to be able to really move through that process very seamlessly. But I still want that layer of security where someone knows, someone cares about who's coming in the building, right? There's enough forethought there. There's enough reinvestment of dollars back into the building, and that matters. And so, I think the look and feel needs to change. I'm still trying to figure out what that should look like. My dad used to say, son, when you're designing a product for senior living, you need to be somewhere in between the Ritz-Carlton and Cracker Barrel, right? Somewhere between the Ritz-Carlton. That stuck with me, right? Somewhere between crown molding and blankets, right? And rocking chairs, but yet high-end chandeliers. So you got to be somewhere in that place as far as look and feel. And so, we're working on a lot of different prototypes right now just to find that fit. I don't think we've quite found the perfect fit there. And so, but that's part of trial and error. So I would definitely say that the look and feel and that, how it's perceived is top of mind for me, and something that we're going to continue to get better.
I love how you are using your father's quotes.
I regurgitate that. Yeah. A lot of what I say is literally, it's like my father, and he's since passed. So, he left that legacy with me. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hear myself saying so many things that my parents, especially my dad, and my papa would say to me that at the time, it makes no sense, right? My dad would say, "This is what separates the men from the boys." I'd be like, "How does that apply to you, Dad?"
That's right. Yeah.
Or he'll say, "The proof is in the pudding," and I'm like, "We're not talking about the kitchen, right?" All these things that they say, but they do make sense, right? They really do when you start applying them in other places. So I love how you bring that up, because they're an integral part of our fabric of who we are and what we bring to our work. So I love to hear things like that. And, I want to ask you just purely about the technology and about how to improve it. So I know that there are some communities I will go to and they don't have the temperature scanner, but they have something else. So is the kiosk, can you upgrade the current kiosk to have the temperature scanning in there?
You can. It is the thermometer, our thought is that it's probably going to come and go as you have certain waves. And temperature is one of the number one ways to detect infection. I think it is the number one way. I'm not a doctor here, but from what I read, it's still, a very accurate determination. And so I think the thermometer is a feature of ours. It's really not the foundation of our product, right? I think that through the pandemic, it's caused us to get closer to infection control. And I think as an operator myself and running buildings, prior to the pandemic, it would be very difficult to ask questions about someone's health state, health status. Well, through the pandemic, that's sort of been the silver lining, and that is it's normal to ask that. And I tell you what, I think that's likely helped a lot of residents to be healthier, right? Because people are cognizant of who's coming and going. Operators are saying, hey, you know what, this makes sense, and this is a policy that we're going to set in place because we think that that's best for our residents and our staff. But yeah, if they've got a kiosk and they want to upgrade to a thermometer, you can certainly bolt that on the top. That's the way that it's been designed. But a lot of people aren't taking temperature. A lot are. I would say the majority are. And from what I hear, that's probably the foreseeable future as far as entrance and exit into senior living. It's starting to catch on in hospitals now in certain areas, whether it be the operating room, labor and delivery, just as an infection control process. And I think it says, what we care. Again, it says safety matters. It says we want to make sure that everybody's healthy here, because we've got, in many cases, residents with issues and comorbidities and other illnesses that could be compromised. And so we've tried to create a kiosk where you can bolt things on top of it, whether it's a license scan, whether it's a thermometer or a QR code scanner, so you can use your phone to sign in without touching the kiosk.
Oh, I love that.
We're adding a lot of different features,
yeah.
For communities, and we want that platform to be that kiosk, and then there's a lot of different things that we're able to do, once that's in place. So you can start small and just continue to sort of bolt on.
Yeah, I've noticed some of them take your picture, some of them don't. It's
up to the community. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so they, pardon?
Yeah, it's totally customizable. So that community can either choose to take pictures or not, so that's the product that we've designed in that way.
I'm just kind of petite, so it doesn't find me in there. I have to be on my tiptoes for it for me to get just right in there. So, so where else do you see it heading at this point?
Yeah, as I said, we like the idea of it being a center point, and so what we're trying to do is to create a place where people can go, whether it be a staff member or a visitor or a vendor or a third-party healthcare provider. The one thing that people sort of just kind of by habit, they go to the front desk, right? And so what are the things that can be useful to capture at that kiosk so you're not having to follow up after the fact? There's a lot of new regulation that's coming down the pike that is going to create an interesting scenario with senior living, and it's going to be the sharing of data. You're going to have to allow for, whether it's a visitor or healthcare power of attorney, to be able to find and to access certain information. We think our kiosk is a great place to do that. And, that's what we're really working on right now is to be this center point that just has all of these different spokes and ties into different systems. Not to be a burden, but we want to pass information to operators on the third-party care providers that are coming into the building. And that's information that they don't really have right now, that aren't fully connected to CRMs. And that's a big part of that care continuum that I feel like is left out. So we're working to push that and to work with providers out there, to capture that data and use it to manage the residents' care in a better way.
And what do you think is the biggest hindrance to adoption in this regard?
Fear of change, I think. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. Out of sight, out of mind. Fear of change. It's like, as an operator, it's you walk in and there's never a routine, right? It's either a resident's family that has an issue, or the boiler, needs to be serviced, or, you're looking at occupancy, or you're looking, talking with your nurse about a resident that's under hospice order. So it's always different. And because of that, because you've got a restaurant, a full-time restaurant, because you've got healthcare, and because it never closes, it's an interesting thing about senior living. Think about a business that never closes. Right? Never. You're taking care of people around the clock. You only have so much time to do things. And so I think it just, unfortunately, we usually get called after an incident in many cases, whereas some folks like MBK, they were forward thinking, and, they understood that we need a way to know who's in the building. Right. And so, that's really where I would go with that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just wondering, for the first time ever, as I was looking at my name tag,
Yeah.
Is there anything on here that I should know about for future reference? Because there's so many different features on here, and I'll tell you, I never really looked at it that close. I just slap it on, hope it stays on, and then I'm on with my way. So is there anything that you're particularly proud of that's on here that you were like, man, we worked so hard on that, and now it's on there, right? Like tell me about this and all the information that's on there.
Yeah, so I can see how you signed in based on the orientation of your badge. Okay, so your orientation is horizontal. Okay, that says someone in the building is there on behalf of a third party, right? It could be a vendor, it could be a self-employed care provider, but likely if you have that badge on, you're not a family member. Okay. And so now if you are a family member, you can change that upon sign-in, but a family member badge looks different. Okay. So a family member badge is much smaller. It's a little bit more, to use your word, petite. The vendor badge that you have on is what you would see a home health provider wear, a hospice provider, a self-employed private caregiver, because we want those operators, that executive director, that business office manager, administrator, to see down the hall, they see your badge on and they see it's a horizontal badge. Likely you're there either providing a service or there for a business reason. And so that's one of the reasons why we do that. Employees are now signing in too, right? Because a lot of that information has to be provided and given to the government. And so, they have their badge is different looking. And so that is something that we think is a good way to differentiate the types of visitors and those visitor categories that come in. And so I notice on your badge, it's Abby Ritchie, and then it says self-employed. And so if you wanted to, you could change that to put your company name here. You could put that, and it's got your date and time. And then, it's got the lock up in the corner, which says safety. And so that's really the design behind what we do.
That's so cool. I never knew that. And now, I don't know, took it for granted, would put it on. At one point I had a whole bunch of them on a binder I always bring in, but I'm glad to know that. And it's so smart. You would want to be able to designate and to determine who's in your building just by glancing at their tag. So that is really, really cool.
And it's funny you say that, someone had stopped you, a resident. A lot of times when we introduce this to the community, we'll maybe talk to the resident council, and there's always one or two individuals that have been in security or been in something like that. And they sort of think of it as their job, right? And that is that everybody in the building is accounted for. That's important for emergency purposes, right? And so, we get the question, well, what's going to really stop someone from just walking by? And they could. The difference is that the staff knows, the residents know to look for that badge, right? And then look for that date and time. And that's going to say, what that person signed in today, versus someone walking around the building, not having a badge on, and you realize that they didn't sign in. And so that was a lot of the reason why we instituted the name badging system.
I love it. Now that I know so much more about it, I like it so much more. It serves such a deeper purpose than just signing in. It really does. And
Agreed.
there are some places I go to where, a lot of times I'll sign in and I'm a little annoyed. It takes me a while to yes, and no. And then it's just right in there and whatever. But then I take it and then sometimes I put it on my leg because I know it's not going to stay on my shirt or it's whatever. And there are people who be like, there's typically a receptionist or a concierge will say, "Where's your badge?" And I'm like, "It's right here. It's right here. It's on my leg." Like they're all on board.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And funny enough, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out the right amount of adhesive on that badge. And I can tell you, we've printed thousands of badges trying to figure out what the best is. And there's no perfect solution, because if you put too much adhesive, then it could potentially leave a mark on your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put enough, then it'll just immediately peel off. So we needed to find that middle ground. And so we think we found it now. We've been using the same badge, and they're pretty good. They're not perfect. They're designed to only be able to be used once.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them to be used over and over again. In many cases, if you take it off and you try and put it back down, it starts to peel up. And so that's a telltale sign that maybe someone's trying to reuse a badge.
I actually got this yesterday.
See that corner? I was wondering.
Yeah, there you go. I actually got it. And then I thought, I'm going to save this for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But and then I even tried at first to take it. I'm like, oh, no. If I it's never going to stick on me again. I'm just going to keep it where I have it right now. And so it's all the truth. There you go. Okay. So I have a fun question for you. And I love to know this. Two things. The first one is, if you had to claim one piece of technology or an app as your own, you invented it, what would it be?
Does it have to do with senior living?
No. Mm-mm.
Ooh. I would say a 100% fully integrated dashboard where you can do literally everything from behind one screen.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a great idea. A lot of people have had that idea and have tried to invent that. The issue lies with me and with other technology owners,
mm-hmm.
in that it's not always easy to play in a sandbox together.
Yeah.
And so there's regulation coming down the pike that's going to force those relationships to happen, which is a good thing, I believe. And so you're going to start to see competitors and close seconds and all sorts of different technologies coming together to figure out how you make everything work together, because it's going to be a regulation. And so that's a good thing for the operators in the building, because the operators in the building are going to have to share a lot of information with power of attorneys and with, other individuals that manage the care for the residents and deserve that information, as well as the residents. If you were to go and I don't know your health situation, but for me, I've had a lot of different things in a lot of different places from a health perspective. I got, whether it's a internal medicine doctor or a hematologist or a urologist, right? Everyone has different information on you. These rules and regulations are coming down the pike that are going to enact the ability to find all that information from one place. Okay. And you can't block that information. So if I have that information in my system at AccuShield, I'm going to have to share that information with those parties that can prove that they deserve that information. And so you're going to see a lot more of this joining and coming together as a technology cohort to create a seamless solution. It's going to be for some interesting conversation, but it's better for our health system, I think, moving forward. So be on the lookout for a lot of those things, and a lot of resident monitoring is going to be a lot easier now. If you move your mother into a community, you're going to be able to see her health in real time. That's coming quick. So we want to be a part of that, and we're in a lot of conversations with some very forward-thinking technology groups, and we're excited to be there. So I would say the dashboard that you can do everything, the Oz.
And I have one more question for you. So when you get something new in the mail that requires you to put it together, a new toy, do you just tear into it or are you a direction? Do you read the directions and plod through it?
I'm a directions guy.
Okay.
I do. I look at the directions. You know, very, very much I don't mind asking for help when I'm lost. You know, a lot of my friends are like, I'm never lost. I'll figure it out. I'm like, I don't want to figure it out. I just want to know. So I'm going to ask someone, you know, oh my gosh, I'm like a lost puppy in a supermarket. You know, I'm like, where are the mushrooms? You know?
Yeah.
So I would ask. So the answer is I'm a directions guy. So I just literally put together a teak outdoor chair and was so upset because I had to literally re-drill the holes because they didn't drill them right. So I'm glad that was the second attempt, even though that second attempt took me about twice as long. But I figured it out and with the help of the directions. I don't know quite what that means about me, but yeah, I'm a directions person.
Yeah, it means you're very thoughtful. It's funny because we recently moved and we've had to order a lot of furniture. And my daughter is 14. She's been putting it together.
Yeah.
She's into it. And she keeps telling me that I got a problem with these direction people, right? And the hole and drilling the holes and everything.
Yeah.
You know, she's always been into building like with Legos, and now she's 14 and she's actually able to put together like large pieces of furniture.
Yeah.
It's impressive. But I know that those directions are not written well.
Yes, I would fully agree.
Yeah, totally. So. Well, Charles, thank you so much for coming on to Tech Tuesday and explaining what's going on behind the kiosk, explaining the tag, and for really being a visionary in senior living. It's been great talking to you.
Well, thank you, Abby. I appreciate the time, and let's do it again soon.
You got it. You got it. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Bye.
Goodbye.